Officer Edward Coughlin Callahan was born on February 20th, 1927. He was the son of William and Mary Callahan. They lived at 106 Russell Street. He was delivered into the world by Dr. William McBain, and he was the 180th child born in Malden that year. By all accounts, he was a good and decent man, and a dedicated police officer, and a devoted husband to his wife Mimi, and a loving father to his two children, Debbie and Eddie. Many of us here had the honor of working with his son Eddie, who became a Malden police officer, and who before his own passing at age 33 due to an illness, offered these words: "I have always found it to be the deepest honor to state, yes, I am the son of Officer Ed Callahan." September 14, 1963, Officer Callahan was working the west car with his partner George Hood. They were working 5 p.m. to midnight, and at 5:15 they responded to the Emerson School on a report of a ball game. At 5:56 they went to a fire alarm at box 616, and at 6:30 they were at 17 Ivy Road on a broken windshield report. At 7 p.m. they were at Pearl Street and Hubbard Street when they received information that there was a possible robbery in progress at the A&P Super Market located at 347 Pleasant Street. They responded, and upon arrival were confronted by an armed criminal who opened fire. Both officers were struck. When Officer Callahan and his partner responded to that call, they were fulfilling their solemn oath that they had taken when they received their badges as police officers. In some sense, it would be incorrect to say that Officer Callahan willingly gave his life. His sacrifice is much greater than that. There were 3 participants in this robbery. The getaway driver was apprehended at the scene by an alert armed citizen. One of the robbers fled on foot into Medford, where he was caught by the alert actions of 2 Medford police detectives, Leo Sacco and Detective Griffin. We are honored particularly tonight by the presence of Chief Leo Sacco from the Medford Police Department, who has always been a trusted friend of the Malden Police Department. And on that night, his father stood up and did his job and brought into custody one of the people responsible for this crime. For his presence here, Chief Sacco, we thank you. We always remember you. Both officers were wounded. Officer Hood was taken to Malden Hospital, and Officer Callahan was taken to Mass General Hospital. In some sense, we're here because of some words that I recall reading in a soldier's diary in a book by A.E. Houseman. He said, "Lads, we'll remember friends of ours who shared their work with God. The saviors come not home tonight, themselves they could not save." Officer Callahan clung to life for 46.5 hours. When he could not be saved, the decision was made that someone else would be saved. And Officer Callahan's wife, Mimi, made a very brave decision that even shocked the medical profession. She was asked, and she consented, that he donate his liver so another person might live. Officer Callahan, upon his passing, immediately had his liver transplanted to another person, Joseph Bingle of Roxbury. This was something that was vital to the furtherance of the medical community's ability to save lives. So Officer Callahan's final act, through the decision that he had discussed with Mimi, was that someone else could live, and he would make that sacrifice. This is the type of person he was, and this is who we are here to honor tonight. We're here to dedicate this monument to Officer Callahan. But referring back to what Lincoln said at Gettysburg, in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men living and dead who struggled here have already consecrated it far above our own poor power to add or detract. I'm also reminded of some words that were offered regarding that this area has always been dedicated to Officer Callahan. It did not need us to do this tonight, but it is fitting and proper that we do it, because it's our way of saying that we remember. 1963, was a momentous year in the world of law enforcement. 137 police officers were killed in the line of duty. One of them was Ian J. Campbell from the Los Angeles Police Department. He died on March 9, 1963. His death was portrayed in Joseph Wambaugh's book, The Onion Field. Also, we should remember that on November 22, 1963, a Dallas police officer, J.D. Tippett, also gave his life in the aftermath of the president's assassination. But with regard to Officer Campbell was himself a bagpiper, and he often played his pipes in the basement of the old Hollywood police station. His funeral was the first in LAPD history in which the bagpipes were played. Since then, the bagpipes have been played at every LAPD funeral service of officers killed in the line of duty. Along that theme, I want to say something to the most important person here, Mrs. Callahan. Mrs. Callahan has been, in my opinion, the First Lady of the Malden Police Department. She has shown grace, dignity, courage, and faith. She has endured much. But she has never, ever, ever said no to us when we've asked her to step up and represent us. She is an absolute tribute to all that is good, and she absolutely makes me feel better every time I see her. On occasion, I have come by the house on certain events, and I brought her roses on the anniversaries of days like today. Well, Mrs. Callahan, tonight, we have a couple of gifts for you. We're going to give you some music, and we planted a rose bush in front of the monument. So those are your roses. And as far as the music, tonight we've chosen a very special song to be played during the dedication of this monument, which will happen in a moment. The song that we chose is called Mist-Covered Mountains. It was written in 1856. And is very significant because it was a favorite of President Kennedy. And in fact, it was played at his burial at Arlington National Cemetery by the U.S. Air Force Bagpipe Band. And when we unveil this monument in a few moments with you, with your grandson Joshua, who was a recruit in the police academy, and upon graduation he will become a fourth generation member of the Callahan family to become a Malden police officer. When we play that song, I want you to listen to the words that go along with it. Hail to the mountains with summits of blue, to the glens with their meadows of sunshine and dew, to the women and men ever constant and true, ever ready to welcome one home. There shall I visit the place of my birth, they'll give me a welcome, the warmest of mirth, so loving and kind, full of music and mirth, the sweet sounding language of home. Having said that, I would now ask the bagpiper to please play the song Mist-Covered Mountains. And Mrs. Callahan, I would ask you to perform a duty for me. Would you please go up with your nephew, Major Frank Hughes from the Mass State Police, and Joshua, and unveil this monument for us.